common threads. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are joining us from around the world. And welcome to today's presentation. My name is Chavi Hartley, and I'm delightful to be hosting the session with Chelsea Hahn, who is here to provide an insightful overview of the prestigious MBA program at Cornell SC Johnson Graduate School of Management. Chelsea will take us through the distinctive features of the program and explain why it should be on top of your list as you consider applying to the MBA cycle. Cornell University Johnson Graduate School of Management offers a collaborative, rigorous environment with a focus on leadership, integrity, and industries like tech, consulting, and finance. Its MBA program emphasizes customizable academics and immersive learning experience. Before I hand things over to Chelsea, I'd like to quickly highlight the Q&A session. After the presentation, we will open the floor for a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please submit them via the Q&A tab located on the right-hand side of your screen. Kindly refrain from posting the questions in the chat window to ensure we do not miss any. Thank you for joining us today. Now, without the further delay, I'll pass it over to Chelsea and to take us through the presentation. The floor is yours, Chelsea.
Thank you so much, Chavi. As mentioned, I'm Chelsea Hahn. I serve as Director of Admissions at Cornell Johnson. Thrilled to be here with all of you to share a little bit more about the MBA program here at Cornell. I will start with a quick overview of the MBA program options that we have here at Johnson. I will do a specific overview of the 2-year full-time residential MBA program based here in Ithaca, New York, talk about a couple of our unique identifiers, our immersions and opportunities to study at our New York City campus on Roosevelt Island. I'll quickly highlight some leadership development opportunities and placement outcomes where we send our students after they graduate, and then happy to do a quick overview of our admissions process for all of you as well before we get into any questions that you have. This is just a quick look at the various different MBA and other graduate study options that we have at Johnson. Anything that you see in red with the little star there next to it notes that it is STEM designated. You see a couple of different variations of MBA programs listed here. Again, the purpose of today's conversation will focus specifically on the 2-year full-time Ithaca MBA program. Also, just wanted to note something that we've recently launched here at Johnson called the Cornell MBA Future Leaders Program. So this is a deferred admissions program for anyone who is in their senior year of undergrad or maybe a 5th-year master's study program as well, that is interested in applying for an MBA program now, going to work for maybe 2 to 5 years, and then coming back to do the MBA. So this is an option that lives specifically within the 2-year MBA application. If you're interested, there's a little checkbox there for you to mark off when you complete your application for submission. This is a really nice visual path and journey of what the 2-year MBA program looks like here at Cornell. We start in the very first fall semester with the core experience and core curriculum. It is front-loaded to the first semester at Johnson, and the reason why is because in the spring we have something a little bit more unique called immersions. I'll talk about those in just a second. Students in the summer go away for their summer internship, and then when they come back in their second year, program is really flexible, lots of opportunities to study different electives and take advantage of different courses all over campus. Some students choose to study abroad. Others will choose to do some of our weekend or intensive courses on our New York City campus. There's also an opportunity to do what we have called 1+1. I will also talk about that a little bit later in the session. And then all sorts of different extracurricular, social, and leadership opportunities to get involved as well in the second year. Quick look at our MBA class profile. I'm not going to talk about this too much. You can find this on our website, but the one thing I will note about the class profile is that when you look at these, either at Johnson, on Cornell's website, or any other program that you're considering, please note averages and their ranges, they do not encompass all of the students in the program. So if you look at some of these numbers or these stats and you feel like maybe they're not representative of your profile or how you might fit, don't count yourself out or self-exclude before you decide to submit your application for admission. Have a conversation with us before you decide to do that. We have students on both ends, below and above all of these numbers that you see listed here. I had mentioned these immersions that we have in the spring of the first year, so right after the core curriculum in the fall. These immersions, the goal of them really is to tee our students up for success in the internship. So they are specifically connected to and tied to post MBA industry or function in terms of goals and aspirations. They are very specifically also tied to internships. So our students are coached by business practitioners. They're working under actual business conditions, and they are offered in terms of what most of our students will recruit for in terms of internship. So we have one for strategic product and marketing, one for digital technology, a strategy and consulting immersion, one for corporate finance, and then we have an investment banking path as well. We do also have an opportunity for students to customize if they're interested in something maybe a little bit more niche, like healthcare, hospitality, real estate, um, agriculture, or something else that they might be interested in studying at Cornell, but maybe not one of our most popular industry paths for recruitment. All of our students, I will also add, does take one of our immersions, even if it's maybe someone focused on entrepreneurship or family business and they choose to customize one. But again, all of our students do take some sort of immersion in their spring semester, leading them to greater success in their internships. I had also mentioned some really exciting opportunities to study in New York City on our Roosevelt Island campus at Cornell Tech. This is a really nice shot from the Tata building that you see here. We have space on the lower half of Roosevelt Island for anyone local to New York. Please make sure that you take the tram over and walk around and do a visit of Cornell Tech. The facilities there are absolutely beautiful. Our students have a couple of different options to study in New York City. They can choose nothing if they never want to go at all. The next thing that they could do are elective courses in the fall of their second year. Classes are offered on Fridays and Saturdays. You can take two in a single weekend. Really great way to just take some interesting and innovative classes. Or if you have some elective credits free that you're not really sure what to do with and you're looking for maybe just a change of scenery for a short amount of time, you can go down to New York and take some of these classes on our New York City campus. These are some examples of elective classes that we have. Designing data products, cloud computing, cryptocurrencies, design thinking. We also have classes in AI, entrepreneurial finance, and fintech related classes as well. After the New York City electives, if you wanted something a little bit more intense, you wanted to spend a little bit more time on Roosevelt Island instead of just a weekend, you could also do one of our 7-week intensives. We have two. They both take place in the first 7 weeks of the second spring semester. They do overlap, so students have to choose one or the other. You can't do both. The first is our FinTech Intensive. The FinTech Intensive really immerses students in the FinTech sector, exposes students to startup ideas, new ventures, and tech applications happening in financial services. Really teaches our students how to speak the FinTech language so they can have some of those conversations about what's happening in the FinTech space. A couple of classes that we offer: blockchain and crypto, business models. There's a practicum, and then there's also a group field project. The other intensive that we offer is culture and media tech. So for anyone interested in brand strategy, big data, potentially something with like a digital tech or creativity lens as well, this might be a really great option for you. Some of the classes we offer in this intensive include digital marketing platforms, strategy creation and measurement, digital marketing analytics, and then there is also a group field project. And the last opportunity to study in New York City is if you wanted to spend your full second year and take 50% of your experience down to New York, you could do what we have called 1+1, which is the first year in Ithaca, your core in the fall, and then your spring immersion. And then you would go away for your summer internship. You would never report back to the Ithaca campus. You would instead go to New York City and you would effectively enroll in the Cornell Tech MBA program, and you would become a Cornell Tech MBA student. You would then do their studio core curriculum in your first fall semester. And in the spring, you could do one of those two intensives that I had just talked about, or a number of many other elective classes that is offered at Cornell Tech. I will add, for anyone thinking that this is a really exciting opportunity and you're potentially interested in 1+1, Cornell Tech does have a 3-year minimum digital-based work experience requirement. So this is a really niche option, but focused more so for anyone who is very specific to working in digital tech or going into a tech industry after graduation. Also could be a good option for someone who is potentially an entrepreneur or interested in working at a startup. I will quickly highlight some information about leadership development. I think that's one of the reasons why many students choose to pursue MBAs in their professional careers, to harness and hone some of those soft skills. So we teach our students at Johnson to lead with what we call the 4 C's: character, cognition, connection, and courage. Really comprehensive in terms of opportunities to develop your leadership skills. We have a number of different expeditions. We do a 10-day backpacking trip to Chile and Patagonia, 7-day scuba expedition to the Bahamas. We do a 3 to 5 day camping and canoeing trip to the Adirondacks here in upstate New York. And we also do a day trip to Officer Candidate School at Quantico with the US Marine Corps. So depending on how far you want to push yourself, there should be something there for everybody. We also have different opportunities to lead within our extracurricular community with clubs and organizations. There is Johnson Leadership Fellows, which is an opportunity for second-year students to coach and mentor first-year students as they go through their core team experience. Board Fellows puts students in a non-voting director position on some boards of some local nonprofits here in the upstate New York and Finger Lakes region, for anyone interested in service or potentially working for an NGO. And then there's different case competitions and all sorts of other opportunities as well. What I really like about leadership development at Johnson is that it has a very large focus on being customized to the individual. So our leadership programs team is very intentional about making sure that they are developing our students in ways that are relevant and important to them. Let's quickly talk about placement and where our students go after they graduate. Probably one of the most important aspects of pursuing an MBA program is what types of jobs do our students leave with. These are some placement numbers and statistics for the class of 2023. Our students did very, very well. Love to see that virtually everyone who wants an internship gets one. These are also our top recruiters for the class of 2023. This is just our top like 12 or 15. If you look at the full employment report on our website, it is much, much longer than this. You'll see closer to 200 companies listed. These are the companies that hired maybe somewhere between 10 to 12 or 15 of our students. So they took a larger size in terms of numbers, but we have many, many companies that recruit at Johnson that hire maybe between 1 to 5 students in the program. What I also really like about this visual slide of recruiters is that it's a really nice mix. You see banks represented here, you see consulting firms, you see tech companies, you see CPG companies as well. And again, the full list of recruiters on our employment website is much, much longer and more diverse. For anyone who hasn't had a chance to talk about or visit Ithaca, I like to talk about it really quickly, just because I think it's a really special place to do business school. In my opinion, going to business school means that you will likely end up in a major city for the rest of your career. I think it's a really nice opportunity to take 2 years out of that and really invest in yourself and your growth and development and your network, and really building the relationships that come with going to business school and going to an MBA program. Ithaca is a really exciting college town, great for the outdoors if you like to spend some time outdoors. One of the best destinations, in my opinion, in the country for wineries and breweries, and also food. Ithaca has more restaurants per capita than any other city in the country. So it's great for that as well. Also just family friendly, and I think a really great place to think about pursuing MBA study. Here are our application deadlines for the season. So now that we've talked about the program, opportunities to develop your leadership skills, and what placement looks like for our students, we can talk about what's next and how to actually apply to the program. So we have 3 rounds of application deadlines here at Johnson. We have passed round 1, which took place in September. Round 2 will be coming up on January 9th. So still plenty of time for anyone who's thinking about submitting for round 2. And then we do have a 3rd round coming up in April as well. And then we are a consortium school. So we do also have our consortium deadlines, the early action on the 15th and the traditional deadline on January 5th. The other 2 deadlines that you see there, initial notification and final decision. Initial notification is the date by which you would hear one of 3 decisions if you apply by the deadline that you see listed there. The 3 decisions would be an invitation to interview, an invitation to join our wait list, or a notification that another program might be a better fit. And then for the final decision deadline, those would be decisions that would come out on a rolling basis, post initial notification and post interview. So your 3 decisions that you could get, again, an invitation to join the waitlist, a notification that another program may be a better fit, or an offer of admission. And if so, we would love to see you here at Johnson. List of our requirements. You can find these on our website, but the couple things that I'll highlight because I think they're a little bit different than some of our peer institutions. We do have an option to submit for a test waiver with the completed application for admission. We do not review test waiver requests in advance of submitting your full application. We do need to see your full application package and all of your other materials to get a full assessment for your academic readiness and your ability to handle the rigor and pace of the course. So we do like to see the full application in order to get back to you about whether or not your test waiver request is approved. In terms of essays, we have 1 goals statement. It's fill in the blank plus 1 required essay. You can actually choose one of 2 that we have. And then for letters of recommendation, we only require 1 at Johnson. The second one that we will take is optional. That is everything that I had planned to share with all of you. I'm happy to turn it over to Q&A and answer whatever questions you all have for me.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for that exceptional and insightful presentation. It was a pleasure to learn more about Cornell SC Johnson Graduate College of Business and the exciting opportunities it offers through its MBA program. Now let's move on to some of the questions we have received from our audience. The biggest question of the day from Bernard Owosu Ansa from Ghana. Do we get an application waiver for this session?
Such a good question. So we actually give application fee waivers for attendees of our Ask Admission session. So if you attend our Ask Admission session on our website, we have a full list of upcoming events. I think we schedule them about monthly on our events page. So sign up for one of those in order to get an application fee waiver.
Thank you. Sati Dasgupta from India. Sati Dasgupta from India has asked, how do the scholarships vary from R1 to R2? Are scholarships need-based or merit-based?
Yeah, this is a really good question in terms of timing. So scholarships at Johnson are merit-based, which means that they're based on the quality of your application relative to the overall competitiveness of the applicant pool. When you're thinking about when to submit your application in terms of rounds 1 or 2, you should really be trying to submit when your application is at its best. And I know that that's not a really solid or concrete answer, but we have candidates that receive merit-based funding in every round in which they apply. I would much rather see a really competitive application in round 2 than a mediocre application in round 1. That being said, though, if your application is at its best and you feel like this is the best application you can submit, I would encourage you to submit the earlier that you can, just because there's more seats available and there's more scholarship dollars available the earlier in which you apply.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ankit Setia from India has asked, could you provide insights into the type of companies that actively recruit from this program? Also, Can the MBA program at Cornell be customized or completed in a shorter duration, such as 1 to 1.5 years?
Yes, absolutely. Types of companies that actively recruit from the program. Again, our employment report shows almost 200 companies that recruit on campus. I think from October through April, almost every single day, there's multiple companies in the building recruiting our students, which is super exciting. We have a diversity and variety of top banks, consulting firms, tech companies, CPG companies, sustainability firms as well. I think in the building today, just to give you an example, I think McKinsey was here, Deloitte was here, and Walt Disney was here in the building today. So those are three that happened to be in the building when I was there just today, just to give you some examples. The MBA program cannot be customized or shortened. It is pretty rigorous and it's pretty intense. And there's really not an option to take more credits in one semester or another in order to graduate early. The only option to potentially shorten the MBA piece of the degree is if you were to enroll in a dual degree program with the MBA and another specialized master's program, or potentially the JD at the law school at Cornell. Then you would be taking a shorter number of semesters in the MBA at Johnson. You would maybe be taking 3 instead of 4, but your full dual degree program would actually be a little bit longer because you would also need to be taking semesters with the other college or school at Cornell as well.
Thank you. Tiago Melo from Brazil has asked, with introduction of the new GMAT Focus edition, have there been significant changes in the average scores considering percentiles, or are they remaining consistent with the previous editions?
Good question. GMAT Focus, actually, we've been sort of converting them to the regular sort of 10th edition GMAT scores, just so that we're able to better evaluate them and equally evaluate them fairly with other students that are taking the old version of the GMAT and submitting those. So in terms of averages, we're really not paying attention to what the average is of the GMAT Focus at this point. We are paying more attention to percentiles and how our students perform on the quant and the verbal percentiles relative to what those percentiles looked like on the old version of the GMAT, so we can evaluate consistently.
Thank you. Mansfield Middleton from United States. How does the application differ between the programs Cornell offers? Full-time MBA, 1+1, 1 year tech. Do acceptance rates favor any over the others?
Yeah. So the 1+1 application is actually, you would apply to the full-time 2-year MBA program. And then in the fall of your first year is when you apply to go to New York City for 1+1. So 1+1 doesn't have its own application at this point. You're either applying to the 2-year program, deciding once you get there that you want to do 1+1, or you're applying separately to the 1-year Cornell Tech MBA program. What I will say is that the applications are very different for the full-time MBA, the 2-year MBA, and the Cornell Tech MBA. The Cornell Tech MBA program is very niche. It's for a very specific type of student. So it does have a couple of different minimums and requirements that the 2-year MBA program does not. The 1-year Cornell Tech program requires a 3-year minimum digital-based work experience requirement, and you have to be very tech or digital focused in terms of your post-MBA plans and outcomes, whereas the 2-year program, much more diverse, there's a lot more variety. We don't have the same type of work experience minimum that you see with the Cornell Tech MBA.
Thank you, Chelsea. Victor Eguar from Brazil. What do students typically say is their highlight of the Cornell experience?
Yeah, Victoria, I would say you probably would get the best answer by asking them. I mean, I have lots of things that I've heard from students in the program about the highlight of their experience. I would say take a look at our community search tool and reach out to one of our students to ask them directly. I'm sure you'll get lots of different answers. Some examples of things that I've heard in the past. Winning different hackathons and different case competitions has been a highlight for a lot of our students. There's also a lot of opportunity to travel, either formally or informally, as part of an MBA program. So many students have visited unique countries and had really great experiences for the first time that they didn't anticipate. I think an example of that, we did a trek last year to Tanzania and students hiked Mount Kilimanjaro as part of that. So I'm sure that was a highlight of the experience for some. Others who have done the Patagonia trek in Chile, that's definitely a highlight for many of them. And then I think others, it's certainly based on interest in what they're hoping to get out of the experience. Club leadership, maybe they started a new organization on campus. I've had other students that have started their own business that they've launched as part of the MBA, and that's certainly a highlight for them. So I would say it probably depends on what the student is really looking for and what type of impact that they want to have when they get to Johnson.
Thank you. Vishal Krishnan from India. Hello, I'm unable to find the GRE ranges. Please assist with the same.
Yeah, so we get this question a lot because we actually don't post our GRE ranges on our website. If you're thinking about the GRE, think about, again, in terms of percentiles, we are looking for students that have sort of similar conversions to that of how they perform on the GMAT, again, to make sure that we're evaluating consistently in our process. If you're thinking about a number, though, and you're not sure what to shoot for, our typical average is about a 165 on both the quant and the verbal.
Thank you. Diana Alarcon from Peru. Is it possible to submit an updated GMAT score after the application has been submitted?
It is absolutely possible to submit an updated GMAT score. There are a couple of different options that you could have here. One of which being you can tell us, we actually have a field in the application that asks if you plan to retake your GMAT or your GRE, and we ask for your anticipated test date. You can tell us that information, and then we will actually proactively reach out to you and ask if you would like us to move you forward for review without that updated test score, or if you want us to hold until you take your exam and you submit the updated test score. If you choose to move forward or you don't give us that information, you can still submit an updated test score after your application has been processed and move forward for review. The only risk that you take, though, depending on how long it takes you to take the exam and submit the updated test score report, keep in mind it could be possible for you to receive your final decision before we actually get your updated test score. So if you do have plans to retake your GMAT or GRE after the application deadline, please be proactive enough to let us know so that we can make a note in your application and hold your application for a decision.
For some reason, I'm not able to move this question to the screen.
No problem.
Diana Alarcon, is it possible to, oh, sorry, this is already done. Harsh asks, is there any difference in R1 and R2?
Yeah, so sort of going back to the additional question related to round one and round two in terms of scholarship allocation, you should be thinking about submitting when your application is at its best. There is a difference just in terms of thinking about sheer application volume and how many seats are already taken after round one, right? So round two is our heaviest round, which makes it our most competitive because it's our most alumnus and you're up against the most amount of people. But again, don't rush an application to submit in round one because there's more seats available if you don't feel like your application will be really ready until round two. So you really should be planning to submit when you feel like your application is going to be in a position to put your best foot forward for the admissions committee.
Thank you. Shubham Mishra from United States. Does the school place emphasis on candidates with diverse professional backgrounds, or do you prioritize those with traditional business experience?
Yeah, actually neither. I don't think, we also get the question we get asked about non-traditional backgrounds, and I don't truthfully think that that exists anymore in the MBA application or admission space. I think programs are so diverse, and that's great because you're learning from a group that's not homogenous, and that means that you're getting different perspectives and different ways of thinking, which is always helpful in an MBA program. So much of the learning is peer to peer rather than faculty or professor to student. So when we're looking at a candidate's resume and trying to assess their work experience, what we're actually looking for is what is the value that this person is going to bring to the learnings of their peers and their teams. It's not necessarily what type of work have they been doing or what companies are on their resume. It's more so related to the value that they would add and the contributions they would bring to the program, but also then thinking about their overall um, professional trajectory and achievements. We're looking for growth, we're looking for upward mobility. Have you been promoted? What's your scope of responsibility? Have you managed a team? Do you manage a large budget? Those are all really great things that we think will add again and contribute to your MBA teams, but also in the recruiting space that companies are going to be attracted to when you're going through an interview process.
Cheryl Maruma Hoko, could you please touch on the short answer question or goal statement in the application? How do you recommend we approach this question? Thank you.
Absolutely. The goal statement in the application is a little bit specific. It is fill in the blank. So it asks applicants to immediately post MBA identify their intended role, company, and industry that they would like to be working in. And then the same thing for longer term, maybe 10 to 15 years out after they graduate. We do want you to be specific and give us a role, a company, and an industry that you want to be working for. So telling us that you want to work at in consulting at any consulting firm in the consulting industry doesn't actually help us much. It's much more effective for you to give us an actual specific, even if you want to work in tech and you put Google or Microsoft. We likely understand you're not just limited to one of those two companies. Your target list is probably much broader, but we want to have a specific sense for what you want to do. Number one, to make sure that you've thought about it and that you're very intentional about your path, but also to make sure that we're the right program to provide you with the platform and the resources that you need to transition into whatever it is that you're looking to do. There's also an opportunity to explain. I think it's like a 300-word maximum. We ask you to help us understand the types of resources that you would intend to leverage during the recruiting process and what potentially you would bring to the program in terms of resources that you could use to navigate the recruiting process to help you make that transition. So probably requires you to do a little bit of research on your post MBA plans and also how you intend to get there. But also really helpful for you and for us as we read your application and talk more about whether or not Johnson is the right fit for you.
Thank you. Winter Aguirre from Brazil. What are the most common mistakes made during application or interview process?
Lots of mistakes that we see. I think in the application process, if I'm reading an application on paper, some of the mistakes that I see commonly made is that dates don't align. So on the work history section of the application and on the resume, there may be some disconnects and some discrepancies where employment dates and timelines don't match. That gives us more pause and questions than anything else. I will also say if there are spelling or grammar errors in your essay, you write the wrong school, leaving things blank is a common error. I would say don't leave anything blank if we're asking about it. It's helpful for you to provide us with an answer. In the interview process, I think the some of the most common mistakes are if you're doing a virtual interview, not testing your technology or your microphone or your video before you get online with us. That can be really frustrating. And then thinking about the length and the time that you use to respond for questions. Our interviews are a very short amount of time and they're very specific that way. And your interviewer will likely have a good number of things that they have planned to talk with you about. So be a little bit mindful about how much time you're taking to monopolize the conversation and how long it's taking you to answer each question.
Thank you. Renita Nango from Nigeria. For students in the 1+1 Tech MBA, is year two completely out of the New York campus, or do students have to go back and forth from Ithaca?
Yeah, year 2 is fully in New York City. So you will, after your internship, if you do 1+1, you will likely never come back to Ithaca until graduation.
Anna Marie Golemek from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia. Are there any specific qualities or experiences that you find particularly stand out in successful Cornell MBA applicants?
Absolutely. We are very intentional about fit in our decision-making process. Our program is intentionally small. Our community is very collaborative, it's very supportive, and students have to be very much looking for this type of experience. So, we put a lot of focus and emphasis on looking for that when we are making decisions in admissions committee. Some of the things that we like to see in our applicants to help us understand that they've identified Johnson as a good fit for them is a commitment to their communities, a commitment to making an impact and giving back. One of the real common threads among the students in the program is this organic desire to try to give back and make Johnson a better place than they found it. So our students are very actively involved on campus. They're starting new clubs, leading different organizations, finding ways to contribute or give back. So we're going to be looking for that when we're evaluating candidates in our applicant pool. We also want to make sure that students are, again, looking for this type of experience, right? No one in the MBA program is from Ithaca. Everyone is choosing to leave where they're from to come to Ithaca together to do this experience very so that they can really get a good understanding for their peers and their networks and their relationships. They really want to invest in the relationships that they'll build with other students. So very different than going to an MBA program in a major metropolitan area where people are sort of dispersed all throughout the city, and you might be one in 800 or 900 students. So trying to have some sort of focus on impact, service, community, and collaboration are important things to highlight in your application.
Thank you. From Vishal Krishnan from India. Greetings all. Our students grouped into teams to foster collaboration and to assist with socialization.
Both formally and informally, we do this. So we do it formally through something called cohorts. Those are more so for social and extracurricular opportunities for students to get to know other students in the class and in the program. We do have like fun cohorts with different competitions and like scavenger hunts and things. Informally, though, the program naturally, the way that it's set up and structured, will allow students to be able to meet different students within the program. They'll get to know a really diverse group of people as you go through the core. We actually intentionally put our students on teams of 4 to 5 students with the other people in the program that are the least like you, and that's on purpose. So during your core team experience, you will be working with students who may be absolutely nothing like you or and want to do very different things professionally. But then when you get to your immersion in the spring, those students are all likely recruiting for very similar things. So that puts you with a whole new group of students where you really get to know people who are recruiting for the same thing. You have interviews together. You can prep for recruiting together in your internships over the summer. So the way that the program is formatted and structured naturally on our end makes for a very collaborative experience.
Thank you, Chelsea. Ceci Odum from Ghana. How does the Johnson MBA prepare and support a transition from a healthcare background to a career in healthcare operations and management?
Yeah, for healthcare focused students, we do have opportunities to study with the Sloan School of Human Ecology here at Cornell. We actually do have a dual degree, MBA, MHA with the Sloan School. Students, if even if they don't want to do the full dual degree, they could do almost a full semester anywhere on campus that they want to. So there's great flexibility with elective credits to do classes at Sloan, also in biotech or bioengineering or whatever it is specifically that's of interest to you. Our healthcare students will typically do a customized immersion, and they'll do a project and some classes in, again, whatever it is within healthcare that they're interested in focusing on. In terms of post MBA placement, many of our students will go into pharma companies. Others will do hospital administration potentially. They might work for healthcare insurance companies, or they also do healthcare consulting or sometimes investment banking.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I'd like to apologize to anyone whose questions we weren't able to address today. Rest assured, Chelsea, who is the Director of Admissions at Conrnell Johnson, will be more than happy to follow up with you directly via email. I have noted her email in the chat session of this session. So please feel free to reach out to her with any remaining queries. I'd also like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who joined us today and engaged with the valuable insights that were shared about Conrnell SC Johnson Graduate School of Business's MBA program. Please remember, this session will be available for replay until November 18, so you can revisit the content at your convenience. Before we conclude, Chelsea, is there anything else you'd like to share with us, the attendees? Any final thoughts or key takeaways you'd like to leave us with?
Absolutely. I think what I would say to wrap up, number one, thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Conrnell Johnson. Number two, please make sure to stay in touch with us. We have lots of really great virtual and in-person events listed on our website. So if you are able to join us in Ithaca for a class visit or a coffee chat or a Sage Social, that would be great. Happy to meet with you in person when you schedule your visit. If not, though, join us for an Ask Admissions or one of our upcoming virtual events. There's great opportunities to stay connected to the admissions team, but also with our students. We have a list of student ambassadors on our Connect with Students page that have volunteered to take inquiries from applicants and prospective students. So utilize those resources to continue to stay in touch with us.
Thank you. Once again, thank you so much, Chelsea, and thanks to everyone who participated today. We greatly appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you found this session both informative and inspiring. Have a wonderful day ahead. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.